They gave me $50K while my siblings got $31 million. Then I discovered who my real father was. They gathered us in the living room like it was Christmas morning. But instead of presents, my mother handed out inheritance documents worth $31 million. My brother Quincy got the company. My sister Bridget got the lakefront mansion. Even my younger brother Dustin got 3 luxury cars. Then my mother turned to me, and the words that came out of her mouth destroyed everything I believed about my life for 32 years. My name is Roland, and I need to tell you what happened that day, because it changed everything. The people sitting in that room weren't strangers. They were the same faces I'd seen every morning at breakfast for decades. My mother, Patricia, in her navy dress and signature pearls. My father, Gordon, quietly adjusting his glasses. Quincy already checking stock prices on his phone. Bridget perfectly poised beside her husband, Thomas. And Dustin, uncharacteristically serious for once. We'd been summoned 3 weeks earlier. "Clear your calendars," my mother had said in that tone that left no room for argument. "March 15th, 2 o'clock sharp. Your father and I have important family business to discuss." I'd driven up from Milwaukee that morning, leaving my veterinary clinic in the hands of my staff. The whole drive I thought it was about Dad's health. He'd had a minor heart scare a few months earlier. Nothing major, but enough to make retirement a real possibility. The Thornfield estate sat on 40 acres in Lake Forest, the kind of place where driveways had names and family portraits dated back a century. I'd grown up in that house, sliding down the mahogany banister when Patricia wasn't looking, building forts in the study where we now sat waiting. "Children," my mother began, standing behind my father's chair, her hands resting on the leather like a portrait come to life. "Your father's recent health scare has made us realize it's time to secure the family legacy. We've spent considerable time with our attorneys ensuring everything is properly arranged." She moved gracefully around the desk, handing each of us a leather portfolio embossed with the Thornfield crest. Quincy got his first, of course. Then Bridget. Then Dustin. When she reached me, she hesitated for a second. Something flickered in her eyes. I thought it was emotion. I was wrong. Quincy opened his portfolio and whistled softly. "Mom, Dad, this is incredibly generous. The entire company? Are you sure?" Bridget gasped when she saw hers. "The Lake Forest house? But you love this place." "We're keeping the condo in Florida," my father said quietly. "At our age, the winters here are getting harder." Dustin flipped through his papers in disbelief. "The Bentley, the Ferrari, and the vintage Mustang? Dad, you restored that car yourself." "It's time to pass things on to the next generation," my father replied, eyes fixed somewhere past me. Then it was my turn. Inside my portfolio was a single sheet of paper, a cashier's check for $50,000, and a typed note on family letterhead. "For your years with our family." The room went silent. I could hear the old grandfather clock ticking in the hallway, the same clock that had marked every hour of my childhood. I read the note 3 times, convinced I'd misunderstood. I flipped through the portfolio again, searching for the real documents, the explanation, something that made sense. "I don't understand," I said finally. "Is there another portfolio? Did someone make a mistake at the lawyer's office?" That's when my mother's face changed. In 32 years, I had never seen that expression. Cold, clinical, detached. It was like watching a doctor deliver a terminal diagnosis to a stranger. "Roland," she said, and even the way she said my name was different, stripped of warmth. "There's something we should have told you years ago. We thought it would be kinder to keep it from you, but given the circumstances, you deserve to know the truth." All eyes turned to me. Quincy set down his portfolio. Bridget clutched her husband's arm. Dustin looked like he wanted to disappear. "You were adopted," my mother continued evenly, "when you were 3 months old. Your birth mother was a teenage girl who couldn't keep you. We took you in through a private agency and gave you everything our biological children had. The same schools, the same opportunities, the same advantages. But legally, the Thornfield family trust is very specific. Only blood relatives can inherit family assets. The grandfather clock struck 3 times. And just like that, everything I believed about who I was, about where I belonged, shattered. Growing up, a Thornfield had always felt like a dream. Private schools, country clubs, Sunday dinners around a 12-seat table. It was a life most people could only imagine. I thought I'd simply chosen a different path, becoming a veterinarian instead of joining the family's pharmaceutical empire. I was proud of that. My clinic in Milwaukee had grown from a single-room office into a thriving animal hospital. The local paper even ran a feature about me, the vet who never says no. I thought that compassion came from them, from the way they'd raised me. My girlfriend, Melanie, used to say, "You're not like the rest of them. You've got their polish, but none of their pretension." We'd been talking about marriage, about kids, about a future. I thought I knew exactly who I was. Even my father, 2 weeks before the meeting, had said over lunch, "You've always been different from your siblings, Roland. More genuine, more compassionate. It's what makes you special." I thought he meant it as a compliment. Now I understood the sadness in his eyes when he said it. Looking back, the signs were always there. The distance, the subtle differences, the unspoken something that set me apart. But I never questioned it. Because I believed I belonged, until that date on March 15th. The day my family gave away $31 million and told me I was never truly one of them. "You were adopted," my mother said. "Your birth mother was a teenage girl who couldn't keep you. We took you in, gave you everything, but legally you're not entitled to the Thornfield estate." The words hit me like physical blows. Adopted, 3 months old. Not entitled. Each phrase rewrote 32 years of my life in real time. My father finally looked at me, his watery blue eyes barely meeting mine before sliding away. "We did care for you, son," he said quietly, "but the family trust is clear. Only blood relatives can inherit. The lawyers confirmed it when we reviewed everything. You're telling me this now?" My voice broke, cracking like a teenager's. "After 32 years, you're telling me this now?" Quincy shifted uncomfortably, clearing his throat. "Mom, Dad, this is insane. Roland's our brother. He's always been our brother. Not by blood," Patricia said sharply, cutting through his words like a blade. "You were never truly one of us, Roland. We gave you a good life, the best education, opportunities most people only dream of. That check should help you transition to your new reality." Transition. Like I was changing jobs, not losing my entire identity. Bridget began to cry, silent tears streaking her perfect makeup. "This is cruel," she whispered. So unnecessarily cruel. Thomas, her husband, put an arm around her but said nothing. His expression was carefully neutral. That's when it hit me, he'd known. "You knew?" I asked, scanning each face. "You all knew." Patricia's chin lifted, that familiar gesture I'd seen countless times when she was about to deliver something unpleasant. "We found out when Quincy turned 18, she said. "The lawyers insisted he know as the eldest heir. We told Bridget when she got engaged, for legal reasons regarding her trust fund. Dustin learned when he turned 21. We made them promise not to tell. We thought it would be kinder," my father added weakly. "You were happy." "Why destroy that? Kinder?" The word came out like a bitter laugh. "You thought lying to me my entire life was kinder." Dustin spoke up, his voice raw. "This is messed up. Roland saved my life when I was drowning. He taught me to drive. He covered for me when I crashed Dad's Mercedes. Blood doesn't make someone family." "The law disagrees," Patricia said coolly, "and $50,000 is generous considering we had no legal obligation to give you anything." My hands trembled. My world was collapsing piece by piece. Every family photo where I looked slightly different, every time my mother introduced her children and hesitated just before my name, all of it flashed through my mind. "Get out," I said quietly. Patricia's brows rose. "I beg your pardon?" "I said get out," I repeated. "This was my home too, or it was until 5 minutes ago. I deserve 5 minutes to process that my entire life has been a lie. So get out, all of you," they filed out slowly. Quincy squeezed my shoulder as he passed. Bridget sobbed openly. Dustin muttered curses under his breath. Gordon paused at the door. "We did love you," he said softly. That was never a lie. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I stood alone in that study, surrounded by portraits of Thornfield ancestors who weren't mine. A family tree I'd just been cut from with surgical precision. When I finally walked out, I passed every reminder of a childhood that no longer belonged to me. The kitchen door frame marked with our heights. The piano where I'd learned Chopin badly. The staircase I used to race down on Christmas mornings. By the time I reached my car, I was shaking. By the county line, I was crying so hard I could barely see the road. Melanie was grading papers when I walked into our apartment. She looked up, saw my face, and dropped her red pen. Roland, what happened? Is it your dad? Did something happen to Gordon? They're not my parents, I said, the words tasting foreign. I'm adopted. They've known my whole life. My siblings have known for years. Everyone knew except me. She pulled me into her arms and I broke. The kind of crying that leaves you hollow when it's done. You're still you. She whispered into my hair. You're still the man who saves animals, who volunteers every Saturday, who makes me laugh every morning. They didn't give you that. That's all you. But who am I? I asked the ceiling at 3 a.m. If I'm not Roland Thornfield, then who the hell am I? You're the man I love, she said firmly. Everything else is just details. By morning, grief had turned to rage. It hit me while I was making coffee, staring at my veterinary school diploma. Roland Thornfield, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. Even my name was built on a lie. If the Thornfields could hide something this big for 32 years, what else were they hiding? Who were my biological parents? Why did they give me up? Were they still alive? Did I have siblings somewhere? Real ones who shared my DNA, my stubborn chin, my memory for phone numbers? I need to find them, I told Melanie over breakfast. My birth parents. I need to know who I really am. She reached across the table and took my hand. Then we'll find them. Whatever it takes. That's how I met Chester Pike. Through the most unexpected connection, Mrs. Kowalski, a longtime client whose diabetic cat I'd treated for years. Her brother had been missing for 3 decades until a private investigator named Chester found him living under a different name in Portland. Chester's office sat above a Chinese restaurant on Milwaukee's south side, 2 flights of creaking stairs up. He was in his 70s, built like an old linebacker with sharp eyes that saw everything. Birth parent searches can be tricky, he warned, his gravelly voice surprisingly gentle. Records get sealed. Some people don't want to be found. And sometimes the truth hurts more than not knowing. I need to know, I said, sliding the retainer fee across his cluttered desk. My birth parents could be anyone or nobody, but they are my truth. I deserve that much. Chester studied me for a long moment before pocketing the cash. $200 a day plus expenses. I'll need everything you've got, which probably isn't much, and access to any records. I have nothing, I admitted. They told me 3 days ago. Said my birth mother was a teenage girl who couldn't keep me. Adopted at 3 months old, December 1992, so I'd have been born in September. He jotted notes in a battered notebook. Private adoption, huh? Those can actually be easier. Lawyers mean paper trails. You know who handled it? Jerome Blackstone, Philadelphia. He did all my parents' legal work back then. Chester raised an eyebrow. Blackstone. He's still around, though he's got to be pushing 80. That's our starting point. I'll drive out there tomorrow. I'm coming with you. That's not how I usually work. I don't care how you usually work, I said. They stole 32 years of truth from me. I'm not sitting this out. He looked at me for a moment, then nodded. Fine, but if I tell you to stay in the car, you stay. Some people don't like their past being dug up. We shook hands. His grip was firm, grounding. As I walked down those creaking stairs, past the smell of fried dumplings, I felt something I hadn't felt since the Thornfield meeting. Purpose. I was going to find out who I really was, even if the truth destroyed what was left of my world. The drive to Philadelphia took 12 hours. Chester stopped at every rest area to stretch his bad knee. When we finally reached Jerome Blackstone's law office, a fading brownstone wedged between a dry cleaner and a bail bondsman, the receptionist looked surprised anyone wanted to see him. He doesn't take new clients, she said, peering over taped reading glasses. We're not clients, Chester said, flashing his investigator's license. We're here about an adoption he handled in 1992. Blackstone looked every bit his age, thin, pale, his hands trembling slightly as he examined Chester's credentials. The office smelled of old books and older cigars. The Thornfield adoption, he said after a moment, his voice surprisingly strong. Yes, I remember it. Private, quiet, handled with urgency. The adoptive parents insisted on discretion. We need the birth mother's name, I said, leaning forward. He studied me, eyes cloudy but still sharp. You're the baby. I'm 32. You're still the baby to me. I handled it myself. The birth mother had very specific conditions. The family had to be wealthy, already have children, and agree to a closed adoption. No contact, ever. But you have records, Chester pressed. Blackstone was silent for a long time before standing. He shuffled to an ancient filing cabinet and pulled out a thick folder. I kept everything, he said softly. Never throw the past away. You never know when it'll come calling. He laid the folder open. Baby boy born September 3rd, 1992 at Jefferson Hospital. Mother's name, Penelope. Just Penelope on the surrender forms. But I found her full name. Penelope Vance, age 19. Father unknown. There were cash payments, significant ones. Someone wanted this done fast and quietly. Cash? Chester asked. $50,000 in 1992. Sequential bills. Looked like a direct bank withdrawal. Do you have an address? I asked, my heart pounding. Only what I had then, he said. She lived in Philadelphia for 3 months after the birth. Then vanished. The Christmas card I sent that year came back. No longer at this address. Chester snapped photos of every page. Mind if we take copies? He asked. Take the whole file, Blackstone said, pushing it toward us. I'm retiring next month. Might as well finish the circle. 2 weeks later, I was in surgery, removing a tumor from a golden retriever, when my assistant held up my ringing phone. It's Chester, she said. He says it's urgent. Tell him I'll call him back, I muttered, focused on the incision. He says you need to hear this now. I nodded for her to put it on speaker. Chester, I said, my hand still steady. Over the dog's chest. I'm in surgery. What is it? Roland, you need to sit down. I'm literally holding a scalpel, Chester. What did you find? I found your birth mother, Penelope Vance. She passed away 5 years ago from breast cancer. But Roland, she left something behind. A letter with a law firm in New York. To be delivered to you if you ever came looking. My hands froze mid-surgery. What does it say? Your biological father, Roland, is Mitchell Cray. The forceps slipped from my hand, clattering onto the surgical tray. My assistant looked at me in alarm, but I couldn't speak. The name echoed through my head like a bell tolling in an empty cathedral. Mitchell Cray, the billionaire owner of Cray Industries. One of America's most powerful men. His son Mitchell Jr. had just announced his Senate campaign. The Crays were practically American royalty. Chester's voice came through the speaker, steady but grave. The letter explains everything. Penelope was 19, working as an intern at his company. They had an affair. When she got pregnant, he paid her to disappear to give you up. But she never stopped keeping tabs on you. She knew you were with the Thornfields. My voice barely worked. Does he know about me? That's the thing, Chester said. According to the letter, he's always known. And get this, Thornfield Pharmaceuticals' biggest distribution contract has been with Cray Industries for 20 years. The same year you turned 12, when you might have started asking questions. The meeting with Mitchell Cray was set for the following Tuesday in Chicago, at the top of his glass and steel tower that scraped the clouds. He was older, grayer, but the resemblance was undeniable. The same green eyes, the same stubborn chin, even the same habit of drumming fingers on the desk when thinking. Your mother was special, he said quietly. I was 28, married, running my father's company, and utterly foolish. When Penelope told me about you, I panicked. I thought money could make it disappear, make it clean. I was wrong. So you've been watching me my whole life, I said, the pieces falling painfully into place. He nodded. The Thornfields needed a distribution contract to stay afloat. I needed to know you were safe. It seemed like a perfect solution. They got their deal. I got updates about you hidden inside quarterly meetings. So when Patricia wanted me gone, I said, anger flaring, you paid them to destroy my life. Mitchell's jaw tightened. 6 months ago, Patricia figured it out. Who you really are. She threatened to expose everything unless I helped her financially, and made sure you couldn't claim either fortune. She was going to destroy my son's political career, and everything we'd built. So you chose them over me, again. No, he said firmly, standing by the window. I chose to protect all my family, and including you. I frowned. Protect me? By lying to me? Who do you think your anonymous angel investor was? He said softly. The scholarship that appeared when you needed it most? The perfect clinic building at a miracle price? The benefactor who covers bills for every stray animal you treat? That was me, my breath caught. Every lucky break I'd ever had, it wasn't luck. It was him. I don't need your protection anymore, I said, standing to face him. But I won't live as anyone's secret. Your wife deserves the truth. Your children deserve to know they have a brother. Mitchell looked 10 years older in that moment. If this gets out, my son's career will be over. The scandal will destroy everything. Then let it, I said quietly. I've spent 32 years living a lie. I won't spend another day hiding from the truth. The family revealed we reached a compromise. I wouldn't go public. But Mitchell would tell his family privately. His wife, Rebecca, took it with surprising grace. I always wondered about the veterinary donations, she said. Mitchell doesn't even like dogs. His eldest son, Mitchell Jr., was furious at first, then curious and eventually protective. If this ever gets out, we'll control the story, he said, already in campaign mode. A long-lost brother, the American dream. The twins, Sarah and Samuel, were fascinated. We always wanted an older brother, Sarah said. Mitchell Jr. doesn't count. He's boring. The youngest, Catherine, just hugged me. Can you teach me how to drive? Everyone else in this family is terrible at it. The Thornfields follows for the Thornfields. Their empire collapsed 6 months later when Cray Industries pulled its contracts. Patricia called me once, sobbing that I'd ruined them. You ruined me first, I said. You had 32 years to tell me the truth. Quincy, Bridget, and Dustin reached out eventually. We're rebuilding something new, not bound by blood, but by choice. Dustin even moved in with me, working at my clinic getting sober. We're redefining what family means. Together. Full circle, the greatest gift came when I met Eleanor Cray, my grandmother. 93 years old, sharp as ever. I always wanted another grandson, she said, holding my hand. Especially one who saves animals instead of shipping boxes. You get your kindness from Penelope. I met her once, and before you were born. She had the gentlest soul. Epilogue, my practice is thriving. Melanie and I got married last spring. A small ceremony. Chester Pike is my best man. Both sides of my family there. Mitchell walked me down the aisle. The Thornfields weren't invited. But Patricia was there anyway. Standing in the rain across the street. Watching like a ghost of the mother she never truly was. Standing there surrounded by the people who chose me, and the ones I'd found, I realized something. The Thornfields were right about one thing. I was never really one of them. I was meant for something better. Something true. Blood doesn't make a family, love does. Sometimes losing everything you thought you were is the only way to find out who you really are. That $50,000 check they gave me, I framed it. Never cashed it. It hangs in my office beside a baby photo of me, 3 months old, under a plaque that reads, "The price of truth is always worth more than the cost of lies." My name is Roland Cray. I changed it legally last month. Not for money, but for truth. The Thornfield sent a cease and desist about using their name. My half-brother's law firm sent back a photo of my new driver's license. If you've made it this far, remember, family isn't about DNA, inheritance, or names. It's about who shows up when your world falls apart, and who helps you rebuild it stronger, more honest and more you. If my story resonated with you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and tell me about your own story of rediscovery in the comments, because you are more than the lies told about you. You are more than the secrets kept from you. You are exactly who you're meant to be, and that's enough. That's everything.